Don't settle for less when you are doing offshore dating. Today we discuss. Today we are doing kind of this is just a weekend video, food for thought, in order to relax from geopolitics, offshore affairs, business, finance, economics, you name it. Well, and actually we have two topics to cover today. The first, this is just my homage to the late Michelle Trachtenberg that, yeah, I was a big fan when I was a kid. Believe it or not, she was older than me, so, I'm not as old as you might think. Well, anyway, so, I kind of got a crush on her, when I was a teenager. And so we're going to cover a little bit more on that. We're going to cover why you should not settle for, don't lowball yourself when you're dating offshore. And lastly, we are going to cover how the Elon Musk baby mama drama with Ashley St. Clair is going to affect the worldwide dating. So let's start. Let's start with Michelle. That like I said, I kind of got a crush on her. I mean, of course, she's beautiful, but it's not about just about her looks. That of course she was beautiful on her prime, and honestly, I think she looked decent. I think she looked beautiful on her last year alive, and I know that she got some haters commenting on her during on social media. Apparently, she was battling with a liver disease, something like that. Not a doctor, so I can tell. And actually, I think she handled it with class. So sadly, she went too soon. And I mean, if you're watching this, most likely she provided some sort of happiness to your life when you were younger. I mean, she was on Nickelodeon, and she did all of these high school movies and parts, and on Eurotrip she was very funny. I love that movie. I don't watch TV or anything like that, but I watch some clips on social media or something like that. But anyways, now I wanna address, taking advantage this event on why. So I'm taking advantage of this opportunity first, of course, to pay some tribute, but also on why you should not settle when you are abroad. So let's analyze Michelle on, her prime, let's say on Eurotrip, something like that, not when she was a teenager. And of course, she's beautiful, but look at her. Let's look a couple of pictures here. She was beautiful, of course, but she was relatable. She looks approachable. She looks normal. She doesn't look like this, for a lack of a better word, a sex worker like you see right now on Instagram, things like that. And also she looks, the intangibles, good intangibles, someone that you want to hang out with, spend time. And I mean, for instance, look here on this scene. I mean, I think it's funny. I mean, of course, she's an actress. I mean, she is foxy. She's fun, and look, she's not dressed like you know, like a worker or something like that. I mean, she's very classy and simple, and things like that. And women like that still does exist. The issue is that those women are not promoted neither on Hollywood and places like that, nor on social media. That, well, I mean, social media is not real life. I use it for advertising my business, but please, it's not real life. So try to, take it with a grain of salt. Now, for offshoring purposes, I bring this up because that's what do you want. I mean, at the end of the day, when you're dating, and especially when you're dating offshore, because you are taking, a risk, not necessarily a risk, but you're doing an investment on time, on money, on energy, and things like that. Of course, maybe you are abroad just doing business or finding yourself, whatever may be the case. Any of those options are actually very legitimate options. But the main point is that if you're doing all of that, you want a rate of return, and you want someone who gives you, let's say, a great ROI regarding your dating investment. So many times I see this, and I'm not criticizing anyone. For instance, men that date like a tree on the local market, and these men are fairly good looking or fairly successful. I mean, but even that, let's say they are average, still, you know, uh, settling very low. And I'm like, well, I'm looking like this, and everyone that is from that particular market, why this guy dating a tree that nobody wants to date here? So that also happens. I've seen a bunch of cases. I mean, in my line of work, I've seen so many, couples that, I mean, a lot of mismatches on both sides. So it's kind of I love my job. Well, anyways, however, if you want to settle, you want to lowball yourself, and you're happy with that, you are content with the outcome. Cool, very cool. I've seen many people like that, that they lowball themselves on offshore dating and even in local dating, and apparently they look happy and they look satisfied with their lives. No critique on that. However, if you are someone who wants to you know go ahead and do these investments, for instance, I have clients, have several consultations with clients just talking about these affairs, and of course they are spending money on on logistics, on traveling, on lodging, of course with my services as well of consulting. So they are doing an investment, so I try to put them on the best possible path for success. Anyway, and if you're doing so, you want, be fulfilled with your particular result. Being realistic, of course, because I like to be realistic and pragmatic. But many times, many people just lowball themselves. I don't know why. So that's why I discuss it. For instance, I'm going back again because, I remember when I used to watch Michelle Trachtenberg, and I used to watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer many years ago, and many of the shows and the movies that she appeared, and someone like that. And I remember that I used to want to date someone like Michelle. Funny thing though is that one of my uh, former girlfriends, she looks similar to Michelle. Of course, Michelle is more beautiful, so I'm not gonna kill you, but it's with that same particular archetype. And she was a terrible girlfriend, I have to say, just like this. But she has the vibe on at a first glance. But sadly, when you spend more time with her, she was kind of a soulless. Let's put it like this. But still a fun experience, and I put it up. I put it up, just more than I should have. I mean, I was younger back then, but just because she looked like Michelle. Funny thing though, she was also a European descendant. According to AI, Michelle she's a Polish descendant, female. Well, anyways, so that I want to be the lesson for today. Look, look for women. I mean, if you are doing an investment on this thing, logistics and traveling, things like that, look for someone that fulfills yourself with realistic standards. And I think, I mean, for my particular case, was Michelle and Michelle like females, don't settle, don't settle. They don't do it, by the way. And average women are looking for millionaires and athletes and celebrities and things like that. So if you are mildly successful, you have a shot, depending on the market, of course. Probably not on your local market, but depending on your particular profile, there are markets for you. I'm sure about it, or at least where you are going to find room for improvement. For the second part of our weekend Sunday dating video, we have to talk about the richest men in the world. Elon, Elon is funny. Elon does a bunch of things, and he has a bunch of quirks. Now, the one of the things that Elon has, and we mentioned this here on the platform, that he is very fan of big families and fertility rate and repopulating the world, since the fertility rates are low, and he's doing his share. He has 12 kids with four different women, and that's kind of the account that I have right now. But we have a new player, a new baby mama, and a new kid involved. So apparently, this particular lady, Ashley Sinclair, that she is an influencer on conservative social media, something like that. And yeah, I've seen it on Twitter a couple of times now and there. So, I mean, no, I'm not saying I'm a fan or anything bad about her. She's what it is. Apparently, Miss Sinclair, she is expecting a baby from Elon Musk. That will be the 13th child of Elon Musk. But apparently, Miss Sinclair, she wants to be fully compensated for her, let's say, caregiving services. You want to put it like that. So she is expecting a hefty amount in order to take care of the child, but that includes like having a nice penthouse and a nice car and a nice monthly payments in order to have a luxurious lifestyle. But now Elon Musk hasn't reported anything. We don't know if Elon is already engaging with her or something like that regarding doing the fulfilling these financial requirements of Miss Sinclair. Now, how this particular Sinclair episode will affect the worldwide dating market? Well, on the US domestic market is gonna affect a lot. It's gonna be even worse. Yeah, can you imagine that? But not so much on the, let's say, big, large offshore market. So let's explain more a little bit on that. So on the domestic market, this is something that is getting worried, is getting scary. Regarding that, we know that in worldwide, but mostly in the US, we have this phenomena that, funnily, we call howflation. That is the cost of dating. So dating is getting more expensive. Women right now are way more demanding regarding their requirements. So they want to date richer men, more good looking men, men that are more sociopathic, and things like that. Okay, we know these are very demanding. However, Miss Sinclair has reached a even way higher threshold that apparently the standard is not dating the top 0.1% of men in the United States. Right now, you have to date on the Forbes list, and on the particular case of Miss Sinclair, basically it's not even enough dating a top 1% or something. You have to date the richest men in the world, literally. So, and the fun thing about Miss Sinclair that she is, of course, she's a good-looking lady. Nothing against that. Not my cup of tea, but she looks great. But she is what colloquially we call as a myth. Nothing particular, nothing spectacular about Miss Sinclair. She looks like a beautiful lady, don't get me wrong. But the, say, asking price for her time in order to date her is something that right now is the richest man in the world. The main point is that many women on these mid ranges are gonna see Miss Sinclair and they're gonna say, I think I'm more beautiful than her. Most likely won't be the case, but they will think that is the case. So they will demand dating the richest men in the world or something similar. So that can happen to also to Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, whatever might be the case. So, I mean, these guys, I mean, if I'm the wife of one of those guys, I'll be seriously worried right now. So we know already that we have a dating inflation dynamic that is actually a dating hyperinflation. And if you are a man in the US, let's say between the top 5 and top 30% of income earners in the US, you know that you are on the worst scenario because you have to overspend in order to have a decent dating experience. And the best case scenario in order to mitigate this particular dating hyperinflation that we're having right now, that is on Zimbabwe levels, the best way is to do offshore dating. And yeah, I mean, I don't have other words in order to say so because the the market is terrible, and I don't see any particular fix within the confines of the U.S. soil in order to fix that and have a decent, let's say, dating experience on a reasonable budget. Now let's go abroad and talk about if how is the market right now offshore abroad compared to the US. Well, on the past 5 to 7 years, we have seen a trend of inflation in the rest of the world. It's not comparable to the US. Still, we explained this many times here on the platform on how basically the United States is exporting this inflation to the rest of the world via OnlyFans or Instagram and different platforms like that. When those platforms where women can basically monetize sex work digitally. Not necessarily has to be OF and things like that. Also, they do it on like real estate platforms. I'm seeing this, by the way, or traveling platforms and things like that, or even in this platform on YouTube and Rumble, depending on podcasts, whatever, where you are consuming this kind of content. Now, the issue is that in the US, you are on a whole hyperinflation, and in Latin America, Eastern Europe, still are on a high inflation because the inflation is high right now in the past 7 to 8 years, thanks to social media and things like that. But we are not on the hyperinflation. We're on a high inflation rate, so you still have to pay a premium in order to date on such markets, but is still manageable for particular profiles and particular markets. And the last thing is regarding Miss Claire, let's say the silver lining of this episode is that thank God many people outside of the US, they don't consume this particular tradcon, social media, conservative media thing outside of the US. Unless they're on a particular niches, most of the time are men. So those are the good news. So let's say the quote unquote tots or workers in Latin America, in Eastern Europe, and places like that, they don't know Miss Claire, they don't know, the Daily Wire or all of these Stratcon platforms. Cool on that. So so the lesson for today is yes, we have a severe high inflation rate of dating worldwide, but it's not a hyperinflation compared to the US. And the good news is that the Miss Sinclair episode is not going to affect the rest of the market, but the consequences could indirectly trickle down and export this inflation to the rest of the world. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching Continental Insider. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media. And if you want to work with us, continentalinsider.com. Thanks again, and have a nice day.